The alley was dimly lit, the kind of place where shadows swallowed sound and silence carried the weight of the night. A man in a tailored black suit, his tie loosened after a long day, walked slowly through it, lost in his thoughts. His name was Adrian, a self-made millionaire who had spent most of his life chasing success but had never stopped long enough to realize how empty his victories felt. Tonight was one of those nights where loneliness pressed on him heavier than usual. That was when he heard it, a sound so fragile it made him stop. Soft, muffled sobs, the kind that carried the weight of heartbreak. His sharp eyes scanned the alley until he saw her, a woman in a white wedding dress, crumpled against the cold brick wall, mascara streaked across her cheeks, bouquet scattered on the ground like broken promises. She was crying so hard it tore at something inside him. Adrian hesitated for a second. She looked like a vision misplaced in the wrong world, too broken to be approached, but too fragile to be left alone. Without a word, he stepped closer, his expensive shoes crunching against gravel. The woman looked up, startled, her eyes red and wet with tears. She tried to wipe her face, but her trembling hands betrayed her. "Are you okay?" His voice was low, controlled, but softened by concern. She shook her head furiously, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "They left me," she choked out. "He left me. At the altar. Everyone was watching, and he just—" Her voice cracked as she buried her face in her hands again. Adrian didn't think. He didn't question. He simply knelt beside her, ignoring the fact that his suit would pick up dirt from the alley floor, and pulled her into his arms. She stiffened at first, a stranger's touch in the middle of her pain, but something about his embrace was steady, warm, grounding. For the first time in hours, she let herself collapse into someone's hold. The scent of his cologne mixed with the salt of her tears as she clung to him, sobbing against his chest. Adrian said nothing. He just held her, one hand gently stroking her back, the other firm around her shoulders as if shielding her from the cruel world that had just broken her heart. Minutes passed, maybe longer, until her cries softened into hiccups. She finally pulled back slightly, embarrassed at her breakdown in front of a stranger. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't even know you." Adrian gave her a faint, reassuring smile. "Sometimes it's easier with strangers." She blinked, her lips trembling. Why would he do that? We had everything planned. Our families, the vows, the life we were supposed to start today, and he just walked away. Her voice cracked again, but Adrian caught her gaze. "Then he wasn't worthy of you. A man who can't stand beside you at the altar doesn't deserve to stand beside you at all." She looked at him, surprised by the certainty in his tone. No one had said that yet. Everyone at the church had been too shocked, too judgmental, too pitying. But this stranger's words cut through her pain and gave her something she desperately needed: validation. Her name, she eventually told him, was Elena. She had loved her fiancé for years, trusted him with everything, and tonight he had shattered it all in front of the people she cared about most. Her world had collapsed, and she didn't know how to start breathing again. Adrian listened, really listened. Not the way people did when they were waiting for their turn to speak, but the kind where every word mattered. He didn't flinch at her bitterness, didn't rush her grief, didn't tell her to move on. Instead, he gave her silence and the comfort of his steady presence. When her tears finally slowed, he stood and extended a hand. "Come with me," he said softly. She hesitated. Where? Somewhere better than this alley. His eyes held no judgment, only an invitation. And though she didn't know him, though she had every reason to be cautious, something in her broken heart told her to trust him. She slipped her hand into his, and he helped her up. The night stretched before them as Adrian guided her to his car, sleek and black, waiting at the end of the alley. Elena almost laughed through her swollen tears at the surrealness of it all, a runaway bride being whisked away by a mysterious man in a luxury car. But when she looked at him, his profile strong under the glow of streetlights, she didn't feel like laughing. She felt safe, perhaps for the first time that day. He took her to a quiet cafe that stayed open late, one of those hidden places only locals knew. The owner seemed to recognize him and gave them privacy, leading them to a corner booth. Elena sipped hot tea with trembling hands while Adrian watched her, his expression unreadable but calm. She was still in her wedding dress, still a picture of heartbreak, and yet he didn't look at her with pity. He looked at her as if she were something rare. "You know," he said finally, breaking the silence, "you're stronger than you think." Most people would still be sitting in that church, crushed under everyone's stares. But you walked away. That takes courage. Her throat tightened. I didn't walk away. I was left behind. Maybe, Adrian replied, leaning forward. But sometimes being left behind puts you on the path to where you were meant to go. His words sat with her, heavy and strangely comforting. She found herself telling him more, about her childhood in a small town, about how she had dreamed of a love that lasted, about the way tonight had destroyed her faith in everything she thought she knew. And Adrian, in turn, revealed small pieces of himself. He spoke of losing people he cared about, of building walls so high no one could reach him, of chasing success to fill a void that only grew wider. It was strange, how two strangers in the middle of the night could speak to each other as if they'd known one another forever. Hours passed, and when Adrian finally drove her home, he didn't press for anything more. He simply walked her to the door, his hand brushing hers as he said, "You'll get through this, Elena. And when you do, you'll be unstoppable." Her heart ached as she looked at him, this man who had appeared out of nowhere and held her together when she was falling apart. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she asked. Adrian's lips curved in the faintest smile. "Because I know what it's like to feel like you have no one. And no one should feel that way on the night they were supposed to be loved the most." She swallowed hard, her chest tightening. "Will I ever see you again? Do you want to?" Her answer came as a whisper. "Yes." He nodded, brushed a strand of hair from her face with surprising tenderness, and stepped back. "Then you will." And just like that, he left, his car disappearing into the night, leaving Elena standing on her porch with a heart no longer shattered but uncertainly hopeful. She had been abandoned by one man but found solace in the arms of another, someone who seemed more real in a few hours than her fiancé had in years. In the weeks that followed, she found herself thinking about Adrian constantly. The way he had looked at her without judgment. The way he had made her feel seen, not as a victim but as someone worthy of more. And one evening, when she least expected it, he appeared again, at the cafe where they had shared tea and broken hearts. This time, there were no tears. Just two people, strangers yet not, sitting across from each other with the unspoken knowledge that fate had woven them together. In the quietest, most unexpected way. And maybe, just maybe, being left at the altar wasn't the end of Elena's story. Maybe it was the beginning.